So the NFL owners meetings are coming up next week, and I would have presumed it's a prime time to discuss Daniel Snyder and the potential sale, the future sale of the Washington Commanders. But according to Daniel Kaplan at The Athletic, a vote or owner briefing regarding the sale will not be discussed. I don't know why that would not be on the agenda at an NFL owners meeting, the annual big one where they vote through. For instance, they're going to flex, or they're going to vote to flex Thursday night football games because the matchups were so horrendous this past year. They're going to vote on rules changes that the rules committee has provided. But rather, the league's spring meeting in Minnesota, which is coming up in May, it seems like that's more likely the time and place to discuss it. And I think that's probably because they think they're going to have the ownership group that's going to purchase Snyder's team. And, of course, we've mentioned Josh Harris, who owns the Philadelphia 76ers. He's a part of the New Jersey Devils, or is the sole owner of the New Jersey Devils. He's also from the Washington, D.C. area, and he's put in a bid, and I believe that Magic Johnson has jumped in on that too with him. So that's intriguing, right? And even with the Broncos, it wasn't just Walton. There are different people involved in that ownership group as well. I think by mid-May, late May, they're going to vote on the next owner of the Washington Commanders. There has to be some type of resolution there, because there was way too much discussion about it the last time they got together when Jim Irsay came out and made the comments.
It's odd because, first off, is it the agenda written in stone? I mean, it's not on the agenda right now. Is that everything in that agenda of what's going to be discussed, and you can't deviate from that at all, or you can't add anything in? Because I'm with you, Hutton. It feels very strange that you would not be talking about one of your historic banner organizations going up for sale at an owners meeting.
Yeah, but they also have the federal investigation, the FBI looking into the organization. So they also are waiting on that, and that may also be what is going to be put out there and finalized by late May, because that's been going on a while too. There's a lot. So,
it's going to be fascinating to follow who's going to join that club. When a team comes for sale like this, it's always interesting to me to say, okay, now who jumps in that club of 32 that has an NFL franchise? And we've already seen some huge names that are going to be in the bidding.
Well, Forbes has them valued at $5.6 billion.
And the Broncos just sold for $4.8, which was the biggest sell ever.
The big winner, other than Daniel Snyder, he's going to lose the team, and he's going to sell for $5.6 billion. Now, who knows the legalities of the other things that are being investigated? The Seattle Seahawks, because Paul Allen's trust is in his will, they gave practically everything to charity, and the group now that's running the Seattle Seahawks, they've already said there will come a point in time where we're going to have to put the franchise up for sale. And I believe it's coming up next year or a year and a half from now when we'll be talking about the Seahawks. They're next in line. And then who knows, right?
Will the Seahawks automatically sell for more than the Commanders just because it's the next team?
Or
will it?
I think so,
The Commanders were always one of those teams that surprised everyone when you saw their valuation, when Forbes does the value of all these pro sports franchises. They're way higher on the list than anyone would expect. So that huge number does not shock me, but I wonder now if it's just a timing game. That if you're just the next one, it's like the offensive lineman, Laramie Tunsil signs for the richest contract. Well, it's because he's the next guy up. It's the next team up just going to sell for more from here to eternity,
but think about Washington.
Is someone going to go down?
They don't have a stadium right now.
Yeah,
they've got a dump for a stadium, and they want a new build. And nothing's going to get resolved with Snyder running the organization, but you're buying the organization, plus you're going to be involved in a new stadium build on a different property. Now, chances are the negotiations for that will go smoother because there will be new ownership in there. But at least in Seattle, you've got everything taken care of when you buy the franchise. And it's been a very successful, great fan base, loyal.
Really good fan base.
Yeah. I mean, I do think it'll be
sole ownership of an entire region of the country with your team.
Yeah.
There's no team in Portland. You own the Pacific Northwest with the Seattle Seahawks. It's maybe 6 billion, Hutton, when all's said and done. If we're going from 5.8, maybe that'll be the first 6 billion team.
Elijah Moore just traded to the Cleveland Browns from New York with the Jets, and he's talking that he's excited to team up with Deshaun Watson on the field. He's a legit quarterback. It's someone that has been doing some amazing things around the league. He has respect from everybody around the league. They talk really highly about him here, and they believe in him. And, man, with him being my quarterback, I believe in him too. That from Elijah Moore. Now, keep in mind, on the field, this dude is awesome, Watson. Off the field, that's tough to say everybody around the league loves this guy, because that's not true.
It's revisionist history, I would say, right? It's almost you're preferring to omit a very big part of the Deshaun Watson story over the last 2 years and what's gone on. And even before that, I would say the Houston Texans don't respect Deshaun Watson for how he handled things.
What about
then,
the players
then he got
there?
into the legal entanglements, which is a problem. I guarantee you there's some teammates that don't respect Deshaun Watson with the Texans. So I would not go that far if I were Elijah Moore. But also, Deshaun Watson was great on the field. We still need to see that again with Cleveland. We're talking 2 years away from the game, and he came back, and he was not the same.
Lamar Jackson is trying to negotiate a contract on his own, quote-unquote, on his own. He definitely has representatives calling around, just like Laramie Tunsil did, despite Tunsil being regarded as a player representing himself with the contract. The league has put out another warning to teams to not talk to the quarterback's representative because he's not approved through the NFLPA. And, I mean, there's a purgatory aspect to this now, because he wants to get another offer that's higher than what Baltimore last offered him. And in order to do that, he's trying to spark momentum by getting it out that he's calling teams. But when word gets out that it's someone behind the scenes, like St. Omni, for instance, who has done this for Laramie Tunsil.
Every time you say St. Omni, I think you're talking about a hotel.
No,
I can't believe this is an actual person.
It's a guy, and
where are you staying in New York? Oh, the St. Omni is where we're going to be. It's a great also luxury hotel.
Roquan Smith, he was St. Omni was calling teams about the specifics of the trade and what was going to be needed to get him to Baltimore.
Is he like the World Wide West of football?
Yeah, kind of, I guess, yeah. But I don't know if that's the guy that's with Lamar. And Chad, we've said, like, throughout this process, I think he's played it well.
And who's the guy with LeBron?
Now.
Rich Paul? That's another
Rich
guy.
Paul,
that's kind of a
But he's now
handler.
His agent, though.
Yeah, he's an agent now, but he's sort of he was known as a handler, for LeBron and other players. This must be St. Omni at this point.
But the NFL said this, to be clear. Mr. Jackson is currently not represented by an NFLPA certified agent. And Jackson responded to the league's memo and said, "Stop lying. That man never tried to negotiate for me," saying that there's no one that's actually trying to do this. I don't know how else he can pick up the phone and call organizations. They can do it with him too. But he needs someone calling around to create that buzz, the momentum, make Baltimore think that there's an offer coming that they're not going to be able to match.
Well, I guess it shouldn't seem so odd to me that someone would just pick up the phone and call directly the person they want to hire,
right,
or the person they want to bring to their organization. But there's something just very strange about, hey, I'm the owner of, the Tennessee Titans or the Green Bay Packers or the Chicago Bears, and I'm just going to call. What's Lamar's cell phone number? He doesn't have an agent, so I'm just going to call him up and say,
right,
hey, we want to talk about you joining our team. What will it take? It's weird to think about dealing directly with an NFL quarterback.
Austin Ekeler wants to get a contract or be traded. I'm so underpaid right now as far as my contract and what I contribute to the team. That was the quote that he gave with Chris Long on the Going Green podcast. Chad, he's right. He's absolutely right. He
catches a lot of passes.
Oh, he's playing a position that's not paid well at running back anymore compared to the other skilled spots. But what he does is he gives you 100 catches to go along with all the yards. And here's the real kicker. Most touchdowns scored combined over the last 2 seasons. Joe Mixon has scored 25. Devontae Adams has also scored 25 touchdowns. James Conner has scored 26, and Austin Ekeler has 38 to lead the league over the last 2 years. He is their offense. And Herbert drives the car, and it's points on the board with Austin Ekeler, and that's pretty much it on a consistent basis. So if he's got any leverage, it's right now before Herbert gets the second contract, and they're really hamstrung on the cap. Now's the time to cash in. It's very similar to A.J. Brown last year. If you want it out, demand the trade, you want to get paid. But in this case, I don't think the Chargers can trade him if they're going to be competitive and actually win in a window where they have Herbert on the rookie deal.
And it's every good running back in the league, you could argue, is underpaid because the position just doesn't have the value it once had.
And there's
from
others
a pay
that can,
scale standpoint.
And teams feel like they can find similar production quickly.
People are going to immediately, take shots at, well, look how many millions of dollars he's making. You can't say you're underpaid when you make millions. It's relative. He's talking about the market for what a wide receiver or a tight end that's tops in the league with that production might get paid, and how he's a hybrid position of what he does at running back for them and how many things. I understand what he's saying, and he's probably right, but I think the response would be, well, then don't play running back.
Yeah.
Like, just go back. I mean, I know you're very short, and you probably couldn't play receiver, but, go back and play a different position because this is what running backs are getting paid now. And the scale is not the same as it was. You'd be better off being a top-level pass rusher or wide receiver or quarterback than being this position. And that's sort of the sad reality of it. In the 1980s, it would have been very different for a top running back in the NFL. Not the case in the 2020s.
No doubt. Here is Austin Ekeler speaking on the Going Green podcast about this.
I feel like there's no timeline on it. Like, look, man, like I'm so underpaid right now as far as my contract and what I contribute to the team. It's like I am relentlessly pursuing this. Like I want to get something long-term done. I want a team that wants me long-term. Yeah. Right? Because, look, I'm at the peak of my game, right? Like, I'm going to score you another 20 touchdowns. As long as I'm healthy, I'm going to score you 20 touchdowns. I'm going to have, another 1,600 all-purpose yards. Yeah. Right? I'm getting half my value of what I could be getting. Yeah. Right? So it's like I am relentlessly pursuing someone who wants me.
Yeah, and he's right. And his contract, like, I think of Christian McCaffrey. He did a little bit of everything, too. And he got paid big. But then, he goes down the injury rabbit hole, and he ends up in San Francisco, and guess what? He stayed healthy after the trade by Carolina. But I just don't see the Chargers in the same boat.